All right. Thank you, DJ. So our first speaker currently serves as the Group General Manager at Real Analytics, where he oversees strategy, market penetration, P&L leadership across various African countries. He has taken the lead in pioneering and conceptualizing approaches to media measurement. He holds a master's degree in mathematical sciences from the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences and a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from the University of Nairobi. He is passionate about using data to generate and communicate actionable insights to grow brands. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as I welcome on stage Mr. Enock Mokaya.
Thank you very much for such a lovely welcome. I'm glad to be here. So when you hear keynote address, it means you need to be ready, make good use of the time, and also ensure that I carry you along. So I have my notes, and I have a presentation. So bear with me as I get right into it. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Enock Mokaya. I'm glad to be here at this auspicious event, one of a kind, and I'm hoping that we get to learn together. And so therefore, distinguished marketers, industry leaders, and creative visionaries, it's a distinct honor to stand before you today at this annual Marketers Africa event here in the vibrant city of Nairobi. For those who are new to Nairobi, Nairobi is a vibrant environment full of energy. We call ourselves the Silicon Savannah, full of innovation and entrepreneurship spirit. Today we meet at a defining moment in our industry's journey, a moment where data, technology, and cultural understanding converge to shape the future of how brands engage with people. And so today I want to talk about one of the most transformative forces in modern marketing, and that is the power of data. Working for Real Analytics, we collect a lot of data, right from media data and just recently audience data. So I hope we get to dive in together and learn more about how data can actually shape the decisions that we make in our respective places of influence as marketers. And so specifically, I want us to reflect on programmatic data and how it is defining or redefining how we plan, how we execute, and how we measure our campaigns. Across the continent, marketing is no longer about broadcasting to the masses and hoping to resonate with a few. Back in the days, marketing used to be done subjectively. When you want to run a campaign, it's more about who do I know, who do I think is the top station. And so you get right into it, do your planning, execute. But as technology is moving, the world is moving, solutions are coming up by the day, it calls for the need for programmatic data to guide the decisions for marketing expenditure so that everybody gets to buy better. You get to make decisions that actually add value to the brand. And so therefore, what we are talking about today is about precision. It's about getting it right. It's about personalization and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, programmatic data allows us to reach the right audiences at the right time with messages that truly matter. By analyzing real-time data, we can optimize campaigns dynamically ensuring that every digital impression counts. Every shilling that we spend matters. From time to time, Real Analytics releases quarterly information around top spenders, the media landscape. Like there's a recent one we released from January to September. You will take note that quite a number of brands actually, push a lot of spends in this part of the world. So if all this spend is going into the media, it better goes to the right media platforms. And so therefore, we need to ensure that every shilling counts, and that can only be achieved if the marketing plan is properly executed using data that is real, data that is resonates with the realities on the ground. And so therefore, when we do this, it ensures that every consumer interaction actually builds meaningful value. Because with the right data set, then we get the consumers where they actually are. And for far too long, we've made critical marketing decisions based on, I could say, incomplete data, because the way the current approaches are, it's day after recall. When we are collecting data on media consumption habits, researchers, including ourselves in other parts of the world, in East Africa, we deploy day after recall to collect this information, where you go to the consumer and you ask him, for the last 7 days, think about the last 7 days on Monday, which station were you listening to? Yeah, between 2 and 4 or 2 and 3 p.m. on a Tuesday last week, what station were you listening to? Which TV platform did you tune into? And we were joking around with a few of my friends that if someone asks you what meal you took the last 3 days, lunchtime, you'll struggle to remember. But when it comes to data that we need to be accurate, then such methodologies around day after recall needs to be relooked at. And so there's a new, there are better approaches which will ensure that people now no longer, or brands no longer rely on what consumers tell them they remember. Because most of the time they'll give you data that is subjective. They'll give you feedback based on what they think is generally acceptable. And so therefore today, I'm here to talk about a new approach to collecting this data without the active involvement of the audience. And that is what we call passive data collection. Today we are going to look at the changing landscape of media audience measurement. Let me maybe begin by asking a question that should keep every marketer awake at night. How confident are you that the media spend is actually reaching the right audience at the right time? How confident are you? If you're not like most marketers I speak with, the honest answer they say is they are not very confident, because, and actually they shouldn't be, because the methodology that we use to collect that information, which is day after recall, has some gaps. And so therefore, the tools need to be relooked at, and that is why a new methodology, which is passive data collection without active involvement of the respondent, makes perfect sense, because that way then you are able to collect information that is meaningful, information that makes significant sense. And so there are new realities. If you look at the media landscape in Kenya, especially after 2015, there has been a proliferation of, a lot of media houses. The Communications Authority currently licenses over 300 media channels, both radio and TV. That tells you that with the digital migration, everyone moved to the digital environment. Now people have access to a wide variety of channels. What better methodology to collect information around what people are actually listening to than passive data collection? especially in the Kenyan context where people consume media in a fragmented approach, or rather a stacked approach. In the morning, you tune on to radio, jump onto the commute, listen to radio on your way to work. Maybe during midday, you jump onto YouTube, you stream some, TV or whatever. In the evening, you're on your way home, try to catch some TV to watch prime time and what's going on. At night, there's a lot of social media, interaction. And so you realize that this omni-channel consumption needs to be measured and tracked. And what better approach to do that other than to use a new methodology, which is passive data collection. And so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, join me in this presentation where I shall take us through passive data collection and the results we were able to get. I'm not sure if this thing works. Maybe if you can help me. But generally, we as Real Analytics, we are a data organization. We collect media data on media activities, from spends to mentions around the media, and we've been able to also collect information around media audience consumption habits. So maybe let's take me back to the first slide. We've done this together with one of our partners, our technology partner, who brings on board the technology for collecting passive data through smartphones. The media partner is called MediaHost, is one of our partners in South Africa, where Real Analytics takes charge of the panel, resourcing the panel, maintaining the panel, recruitment of the panel, while MediaHost provides the technology that makes it possible for data to be collected. Let's move on to the next slide. I think I'll move fairly fast, and this presentation is available. We will circulate it so that then you can interact with it. Next slide, please. And so therefore, what we are talking about is that traditional media audiences measurement is evolving because of this shifting landscape. Media consumption is changing by the day. The way Gen Zs are consuming media is different from the way Gen Xs are consuming media. It is also different from the way people of earlier generations are consuming media. So while all these changes are happening, are we keeping up with measurement of these audiences effectively? Let's move on. Next slide, please. We are headquartered in Kenya, and this is our scope in terms of the ability to collect media data across Africa. And so also it goes without saying that we are able to deploy the same technology across all these markets to collect information around how people are consuming media. Let's move on to the next slide. So the Kenya media sector is among the Kenya media sector is among the most vibrant and dynamic sector, and you'll see a lot of diversification of media channels. There's a lot of fragmentation. Like for instance, if you look at radio, there are a lot of radio channels. Every ethnic community wants to have their own channels, and it's spread out across the country, including educational institutions. They have their own media, for instance, radio, and you as an advertiser wants to get them where they're actually listening to these channels. Let's move on. Just move to the next, because I've actually spoken about all this. I'd like to go to the specific results. Next. Yeah, so the current methodology, which is day after recall, where you go to the field, recruit the enumerator who will participate in this research exercise. You will ask him a series of questions, especially in terms of their media consumption patterns. That methodology is called day after recall, where you want to engage the enumerator so that he remembers what media platform were you listening to for the last X number of days. And the inadequacies of this methodology are as follows, because we are relying on self-reporting. We are actually relying on people's memory. There's susceptibility to recall biases. So what happens when people cannot remember? They'll just give you a generally acceptable answer. Of course, it overlooks real-time behavior. For instance, someone is flipping channels throughout the day. You are not able to capture that. There are complex media journeys and so many other things, and this leads to what we call that incomplete measurement. But it doesn't mean that we do not get a result. We get a result, which is what we use, not 100% accurate, but at least it's indicative and it is useful in guiding marketers into making decisions. So what we are saying is that there's a better way. And if there's a better way of doing this, collecting this information to add value to brands, then why not embrace it? Let's move on to the next slide. So we are talking about passive audience tracking, and I'll, in the next slides, let you know how this is deployed very easily, seamlessly through a mobile application, which, let's move on to the next slide. We install this mobile application onto an enumerator's mobile device. And why is this important? And especially in the Kenyan context. Data shows us that smartphone penetration in Kenya is around 83%, which tells you that almost everyone in the country has access to a smartphone, including our grandmothers. Let me see in the house, whose grandmother has a smartphone? That assertion, yeah, at least I've tested it, that it's correct. So the smartphone penetration in the country is quite broad. So that tells you that if you're trying to collect data through this technology, that data can actually be used for decision making. And so we have a mobile application which you install into someone's mobile device, and this mobile application is compliant to GDPR because the only data that you're collecting is detections on positive matches of media frequencies. So what happens is we digitally fingerprint each and every unique frequency of the media houses. So if it's Citizen TV, get the stream, digitally fingerprint it into the application. Then once the mobile app is installed into this mobile device, wherever that mobile device will be, if it hears that there's it hears a media frequency or wavelength of a media house, because it has the unique fingerprint, it will detect that yes, this is the particular station that is flighting at this point in time. So what that means is that if today I'm with my mobile device here and the mobile app is installed and in the background there are media houses that are playing, then it will register a positive match that this media house is playing at this point in time, another media house is playing at this point in time. So we install the mobile app collects media data, only media data, then of course you get a report. If you move on to the next slide, the advantages of this is that then you don't have to engage this person, you don't have to ask them questions. You only need to get their consent. They install the mobile app. At the back end, you've digitally fingerprinted all the media houses in the country into that mobile application. So wherever that person will be with the device, if it hears or it comes across the media signals, the voice, the audio from a particular media house, because it has a unique digital fingerprint, it will match that. So at the back end, we know what a particular person is listening to, what particular station someone is listening to. If he switches that channel, you will know he has moved on to the next channel, and so on and so forth. So if you're listening to radio online, it will say that you've listened to radio. If you're listening to TV offline, online, we wouldn't know the source of where you're listening this TV from, but it will tell you that there's a positive match on this particular station is being listened to. So it reduces biases. You don't have to ask anyone any questions. You just need to look at the data based on where, or rather the exposure, media exposure for each of these individuals. So it's built to comply to GDPR and of course personal protection of personal data. Let's move on. Why this is important is then now we, for the first time, have data that is accurate, correct, that anybody, including the media organizations, broadcasters, marketers, can actually leverage on to make decisions on consumer journeys, what people are consuming in terms of listenership and viewership to media platforms. Of course, the weaknesses, you cannot infer into what people are reading when it comes to print, or what people have been exposed to in form of, for instance, outdoor advertisements. So this is basically on broadcast media. We have data that you can actually rely on to make decisions. Let's move on. Next slide, please. The next one. So with this data, then it means in terms of inferring inference around what people are watching, what people are listening to, for the first time it becomes very, very accurate. And so we deployed this technology and did a small pilot across the country targeting urban areas. So we went to 10 out of the 11 media topographies, and we went to the major towns. Recruited people, got consent to install the mobile app into their mobile device. And so therefore, and of course, these particular individuals, we were able to sample them probabilistically, because you need someone with a smartphone. And then number two, after sampling them probabilistically across all those media houses, the media topographies, they agreed, install the app, and that's it. That's all you need. Then from there on, what you do is incentivize the person, give them bundles, because the application needs to send data of what channels the mobile app has been exposed to. And the assumption here is that people go wherever they go with their mobile phones. So if I'm in the, there are people actually, if you forget your mobile phone, you'll have to go back home and get it before you go to work. So wherever people are with their mobile phones, if they are listening to, or rather that mobile phone is exposed to a particular media frequency, it will positively match that at this point in time, you're listening to Citizen TV, and so on and so forth. So when we did this pilot, the objective was clear. Let's test the clarity. Let's see whether people's mobile batteries are gonna be depleted within a short period of time. And we realized it just works like any other application. There's actually nothing happens to your battery. It just functions perfectly. Data flows, instantaneously, provided it detects a positive match for all those media houses that you've listened to. So we managed to get a sample of 481 respondents, or rather people agreed to participate in this survey in all those urban centers. Let's now look at how the statistics on their media consumption trends look like. The sampling was done, of course, based on KNBS sampling frame. We collected data from people aged 15 and above. Of course, those who are below 18 got consent, parental consent, to participate and install the app onto their mobile devices. The data was longitudinal in the sense that you are studying the same unique person for a period. So we did this for a period of about 2 weeks, and it was purely passive. Now let's look at the results of how that data looks like. The distribution of these respondents across the country. These are the areas we visited. In Central, we went to Nakuru town, Nyeri town. Nairobi, it was in Nairobi town. Mombasa, of course, we went to Mombasa town. Western, we went to Kakamega town. Rift Valley, we went to Eldoret and Narok. Lake region, we went to Kisumu town. Lower region, Machakos. Upper Eastern, went to Meru and Isiolo. And of course, Northeastern went to Garissa and South Nyanza. We went to Kisii town, And this is how the sample was distributed across, of course, based on KNBS distribution of population that was proportionate to the population distribution. Now, these are the people in terms of gender. We nearly got a 50-50, but there were 53% males who agreed to participate and 47% female. In terms of the age breakdown, you can see quite a lot of youth participated in this exercise. And this actually trend also respects the trend we normally get when we do day after recall. Move on to the next slide. We also looked at their socioeconomic statistics. Of course, by way of education level, most people had a university education, while others had high school education. And a lot of them were employed, around 43.5%, 26.2% were employed, and they agreed to participate, all in a bid to, create an impact that we want for the first time to provide the industry with data that actually is accurate in terms of what people are consuming. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, when we looked at TV findings, the TV statistics, there's a chart that comes up. Let's go on. In terms of viewership, we managed to detect around 9 stations, TV stations, during that 2-week period. And Citizen TV was the most detected by the mobile application during that time, period. And then, of course, Inoro TV came in second in terms of the positive matches, in terms of detection. Ramogi TV, K24, in that order. Now, looking at the unique reach, Citizen TV had the highest reach for that small subset that we did. It was a pilot study targeting around 481 respondents across 10 media topographies, which is basically the main towns across the country. Citizen TV is still the most watched media house, followed by Cast TV at 12.4%, K24, KTN Home, in that order. What this shows you is, if you were to sample the same guys and you ask them, in the last 7 days, on Monday, for instance, what station were you listening to? There are some people, because of what they will quickly remember, they'll tell you. But is that necessarily correct? We assume that is correct because they've told you that that is what they were listening to. But with this application and this technology, the mobile app basically relays information of the positive matches or positive detections for each and every media house. So you're able to know throughout the day, if someone in the morning was listening to Citizen TV, they went to listen to Inoro TV maybe at another period in time, and another like that. You're able to follow through the consumer journey throughout the day. And interestingly, some stations that would ordinarily not show up in day after recall, now they start showing up when you're collecting this data without active involvement of the respondents. And that is the big win, that we need to move, as an industry, we need to move and start collecting data passively. One, because Kenya is ready for passive data collection. Almost everyone has access to a smartphone. So if there's a technology that respects GDPR, that is able to tell marketers where people are, what they are listening to, what media house they are consuming, then this is the data. Let's move on to the next slide. We also disaggregated this data because we wanted to understand, how do males consume this data? What about the females? And we realized that out of course, we had a reach, male reach was around 2.5 million compared to female reach of 2.1 million. Both male and female, they watch Citizen TV. It was the highest, the station with the highest reach in both genders. Then more males watch Cast TV, followed by KTN Home, then Inoro, in that order. When you look at females, Citizen TV was top in those urban centers, followed by K24, Cast TV, in that order. So what this tells you is, if you're planning a campaign targeting, say, the males in the urban centers, then your planning should follow this approach, because this is where the people are. This is what they are listening to. This is what they are watching. If you're targeting females, this is the data as it is, without anybody's involvement. You've not, someone didn't give you an answer that is politically correct, it is as transmitted by the application. Let's move on to the next one. We looked at now the findings by age groups, because we wanted to understand, based on the different age groups, how do they consume TV? And of course, throughout all those TV channels, you'd see the youthful population actually consumes a lot of TV. And these are people between 25 and 34. Or if you were to expand that to 25 to, say, around 35, you'd see a lot of it is actually the youthful population. But then again, also, here you are able to tell, out of the total reach of, say, Citizen TV, how do different age groups consume that particular platform? So for the marketer, you're keen to know, if I have a campaign, say M-Pesa Go, for instance, that's targeting the young guys, between 15, teenage all the way to 18, then you know which media houses they are watching. So you can actually plan your campaign based on these statistics. Let's move on to the next one. Again, we did this trend because we were curious to know whether the trends we are getting from passive data collection methodology, are they actually reflective of what we know the trends to be for day after recall statistics. And TV actually confirmed that a lot of TV is consumed during prime time. And we see this happening a lot. People are consuming media. The guys are on social media, for instance, but they will still go back to mainstream media for attribution to try and establish whether these things they are seeing on social media are actually credible. So traditional media still occupies a special place in people's hearts. People are looking forward to prime time, say maybe news, to validate some of these assertions or bring themselves up to speed on what's going on across the country. So that's a trend respected. Let's go to radio. We also now analyzed radio. Next slide. And during this 2-week period, we were able to positively detect 29 radio stations across the country, uniquely. Because what you've done here, and Real Analytics being a media monitor, we monitor all these stations. So we have the recordings for all these stations, or their streams. So you technologically, digitally fingerprint the unique frequencies for each of these media stations. That's what you pushed into the mobile application. So the mobile app is there, provided there's data, and it's exposed to those wavelength, radio waves, and signals for all these media houses. It will positively match. So when we did radio, we realized, of course, Milele FM was the top, was the most detected during that time, followed by Classic 105, then Radio 47, Kiss FM. Again, I'll insist that this was a pilot. We were keen to see whether this technology would actually work. Will it give us data? Will it give us detections? When the people we've installed the apps on their phones, what are the feedback they are giving us? And we've been able to actually establish that it works. Now we are ready for countrywide rollout, so that then we can now look at audience statistics on media consumption patterns in Kenya, countrywide, both rural areas and urban areas. I know maybe there are some stations that focus on traditionally rural areas that are not here, but for the urban centers, this is what we're able to establish. Now, looking at the unique radio reach, the reach there was about 13.7 million people were reached by radio. Out of that, Milele FM was the top, followed by Classic 105, Kiss FM, then Hot 96 in these urban centers. Again, why passive is important? There are some stations there that ordinarily you would not, people would not quickly remember, that would show up, because this is where the respondents who had their mobile phones, the app installed, they were exposed to this. So if I go to I go into a matatu, it tunes on to a particular station, switches the dial to another one. The passive app will collect all those events. If I go to a social setting, there's TV that is played there. It means also that TV has reached me. So it will be able to pick it up, and so on and so forth. Let's go to the next slide. So again, here you would see a fragmentation. And this is the fragmentation we are talking about. After 2015, there's a proliferation of a lot of media channels. All those will be captured through the passive methodology of data collection. We looked at gender disaggregation, and out of the male unique reach of 6.3 million, Milele FM reached 9.7%, followed by Classic 105, Radio 47, Hot 96, in that order. And then, of course, the female reach was higher, about 7.1. Kiss FM was the most listened to stations by females in urban centers in Kenya, followed by Milele, Classic, Hot 96, in that order. Yeah. Let's move on to the next slide. We looked at the categorization of all these stations, and you would see people are listening to vernacular stations at 35%. Others are listening to Swahili stations, 35%, and English stations, about 30%. Again, reflexive of the Kenyan dynamics around how they consume media. So, and this also is an important insight, because increasingly we are seeing brands also contextualizing how they want to communicate. People are running their ads maybe in Swahili. Others would run their ads in a mix of a language that people listening to those stations relate with. And then we looked at now radio findings across various age groups. Again, radio, you would see the age between 25 to 34 are still tuning into radio. And the specific radio station. So again here, if you have campaigns that you are targeting certain age groups, then you know where they are based on actual information on where these people are. Let's move on to the next one. We looked at now, this is a trend. It was important to see this trend. We know that radio normally picks up during the morning. Then during the day, it's flat. Then in the evening, it picks up. So in the morning, during, of course, rush hour, people are listening to radio. Throughout the day, it's flat. Then towards the evening, then there are some spikes. But again, you would see passive data would confirm some trends. Others, calls for further interrogation. But the beauty about this is you can now drill down to the specific media house and see how people are consuming it throughout the day. So as an advertiser or marketer, where are the people during certain times of the day, and so that helps you to tailor-make your campaigns to target these people during those specific times when they are actively watching or listening to this. So radio listenership peaks, where, of course, we saw that the trends are higher towards the end of the day. Again, prime time. People are looking to attribute these sources of information. And that's what we were able to do. We were able to establish that this works, and we would want to know if you're interested to doing a deep dive, because as Real Analytics, we are getting ready to do a countrywide survey, where we recruit people. We look at their socioeconomic distribution and ensure that, all data is captured by LSM. Then, of course, out of all these people who have smartphones, they install the applications, and we give you access. We empower you with this data to be able to make your campaigns, plan your campaigns, follow through. We'll give you a dashboard where you can actually look at where the people are and what they're actually listening to. And we think that this will be important in sorting out the challenges that we experience in Kenya. And so in conclusion, the road ahead, one, we would like to know, if you're interested to know more, to learn more about this technology, we are available to take you through this and discuss the unique needs that you have as an organization. And so therefore, in closing, our pilot study has demonstrated here that the viability and value of passive audience tracking in Kenya is possible. You know, it is possible. We can now get data that is accurate to guide the decisions as marketers. And so therefore, the next phase is more of scalability. This was just a pilot targeting urban centers. And you've seen, we tried to cover the rest of the country, 10 media topographies out of 11. So almost in every corner of an urban center, we managed to map that out. And this gives you statistics around how people are consuming media. The next phase is now more about rolling out nationally, refining the methodology. Maybe some people may have issues with, what about those who do not have smartphones? How do we also still map out or rather understand their media consumption patterns? Of course, the methodology can be a hybrid where you have passive for those who have smartphones, and maybe they have to recall to this small minority, or about 17% who do not have smartphones, and now you have access to information that is credible across the country. And so therefore, this is more than measurement. It's about better measurement that delivers value. It's about transforming how we approach marketing in Kenya and across Africa. It's about moving from guesswork, from subjectivity biases to precision. It's more about moving from assumptions to evidence. It's more about moving from wasted budgets to maximizing impact. Everyone wants to get value. And the plan is that once this data is available, then you're empowered, with insights and statistics as to whether you're buying better, you're able to see your cost per rating points. If you need to make changes, then you can make those changes fairly quickly at the early stages. So I'm here to tell you that the technology exists, the methodology has been proven, the data is actionable, can relate to those statistics. Now it's up to us, marketers, the marketing community, to embrace this transformation and demand standards our profession deserves. And so therefore, I challenge each and every one of us in this room today to ask the harder questions around, of your media partners, to demand better data for planning, to embrace measurement technologies that give you the competitive advantage that you need. Because at the end of the day, accurate audience measurement is not just about knowing where your ads run. It is more about maximizing the impact of every shilling that you invest. It is about building brands more efficiently. It's about driving business decisions, growth with confidence. And so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the tools are here, the data is available, and the transformation has begun. Thank you very much.